Good morning to all. I'm G. Shantan from Sri Lanka and actually representing the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. And I need to present on my research topic, Dive into Dangerous for Prosperous Life. This is actually a case study from sea cucumber fishing industry of Sri Lanka. So these are the contents of my presentation. And first, then I need to give a brief introduction of sea cucumber industry and how it operated in Sri Lanka. Actually, the sea cucumbers are belonging to class Holothuridae of phylum Echinodermata. And catching of sea cucumber actually is one of the oldest activities in commercial fishes in Asian and Pacific countries. That most of these sea cucumbers are consumed in countries in Asia, actually the China, Malaysia, and most of the majority of the consumption is happening here. And when you come into Sri Lanka, that the sea cucumber fishery is introduced by Chinese in late 1800s, and currently it's practiced for several centuries. Actually, there was a civil war in Sri Lanka for 30 years, and now these areas of northeast and northeast provinces are open for fishery after the end of the civil war. And there are 21 sea cucumber species are commercially exploited in Sri Lanka. But unfortunately, that within these 5 years, now we are recording around 9 species in major catches, that others are in very small level. And the thing is, we don't have any local consumption of sea cucumbers in Sri Lanka. We are exporting. So the entire harvest is processed as beach timber and exported to Singapore, Taiwan, and China. Actually, the sea cucumbers are called as kadalatte in Sri Lanka, or attaya. That means that name itself means the leech. So people don't like to eat that one in our country. So, however, the beach timber is considered as a tonic food with high amount of protein and with a low amount of fat content. So these are some products. And most of the time, the sea cucumber fishery is dominated by fishermen in our country, and there's a significant involvement of fishermen in northern Sri Lanka after the civil war. So there are several methods of collection in Sri Lanka. Actually, the skin diving, scuba, gleaning, and using fishing nets. So the using fishing net is a very rare activity that currently these people are not doing these activities in Sri Lanka. And during our research, then we found that there are several safety and health related issues recorded in Sri Lanka. So therefore, this study was carried out to evaluate the different methods used to collect sea cucumbers and health related issues faced by fishers in northern Sri Lanka, and also to understand the injuries in sea cucumber fishing sector. And let's move to the methodology part, that we collect data from northwest, northern, and north coast of Sri Lanka. You can see by the map. And we collect data from September 2015 to October 2016. And we use several approaches to collect data, such as field observations, and we use questionnaires and semi-structured interviews and some focus group discussions. And let's go to the results part. And actually, as I told earlier, that there are 4 methods of sea cucumber collection. Here I am mainly focused on 3 methods. And first method is scuba diving. It's majority of divers are doing, more than 56% are doing. It's a primary method of sea cucumber collection in Sri Lanka, and it's entirely done by fishermen. There are no any women involvement in scuba diving, and also it's practiced in all 3 regions that I have mentioned earlier. And second method is knockering or skin diving. This also entirely done by fishermen, and it's confined to northwest and northern fishing regions of Sri Lanka. Actually, this is not practiced in northeast region because of the higher depth of sea levels. And the next factor is the gleaning. This is the method. Actually, this started after the end of Civil War 2014, and this is entirely confined to northern fishing regions, where the sea levels are very low, and during the low tide, you can access to 2 to 3 kilometers into sea. So in that period, this is entirely done by fisherwomen. There are no any men involvement in this one. the 66.7% of these people involved in wives of the sea cucumber divers, and rest are widows who lost their husbands during the Civil War period. So this is a little comparison of the catch levels and the earnings. So when we take the scuba diving, normally on board that there are 2 to 3 members, and their average daily collection is 290 individuals in average per fisherman. So for boat, normally they are landing more than 500 fish. So they fish normally 20 days per month. So they only take 1 day off, either on Sunday or Friday. So this fishery is done at day and night. So most of this, their earning is around 452. So when you talk about the earning of the gleaning people, you can see it's very low. The fisher women, the same thing, if the same species with same size, the women are discriminated in prices. So then snorkeling is somewhat in between scuba and gleaning. They are earning around $250. And when you look at this, the fishing days per month in gleaning, it's around 4 days. Actually, it's happening day before new moon and day after the new moon, and day before full moon and day after the full moon. So actually, it's around 4 to 6 days of fishing period in this one. And actually, the scuba and snorkeling are using boats, but in gleaning they need to walk. So there are around 10 women. They are working into the sea to collect with their polythene bags, and they are collecting their individuals. Or when we consider about the scuba, they are using special set of diving kits, and normally 4 to 5 cylinders are used by one scuba diver. You need to believe that one cylinder they can work up to 1 hour, between 45 minutes to 1 hour. So they are under the sea for 5 hours per day. So they are per week, they are continuing it for 6 days. So they are facing they are facing different artificial environment under the sea. So actually these cylinders are not made out of entirely oxygenated. They are just compressed cylinders. There are a lot of gas contents, and sometimes there may be toxic contents. And these are some parts of diving kits used by fishermen, and you can see their glasses and torches. That when they are doing the night diving, they are normally using these torches. Then actually there's a interesting story about this torch, because there are different kind of fishermen involved in Sri Lankan waters. So this other traditional fishes, they are catching fish. So they have some conflict with these fishermen as they are using lights under the sea. So sometimes their catches may divert it into other areas. So there are a lot of issues currently happening in Sri Lanka, and there are clashes, and they fight in the boats, and sometimes they cross the borders. Actually, not the country borders. There are provincial borders in sea waters. So there are a lot of struggles happening. And actually, as I told, that true fishing time is range from 30 to 45 minutes. And there are 2 types of regulators used by scuba divers. We recommend the regulators with pressure gauge, because they can observe the air pressure inside the tanks. But you can see that only 12% of these divers are using this one. So the 88% are using the pressure regulators without pressure gauges. So that means when they are under the sea, they cannot calculate the time, how long we can remain in the sea. So they are collecting a lot of animals, and when they feel that the air is not enough for them, they tend to come out. So then, as I told, that both day and night diving are practiced by scuba divers, and the night diving generates higher incomes, because most of the species come out of their hiding places during the night time, and normally their fishing depth is around 15 to 30 meters in scuba diving. Then if they go up to 30 meters, they can only stay up to 30 minutes or 20 minutes. but if they dive in 15 meters, they can be there for 45 minutes. So when you talk about the snorkeling, they don't have any special kits. They only use glasses to look at the bottom, and these are the glasses used by the snorkers. And we all know that we need to get the PADI license that is internationally accepted to do diving, but only there are some facilities available around Sri Lanka to get this license, but actually these licenses are taken by the people who need recreation activities. But these fishermen, only 10.5% fishermen have this license, and actually in the deep diving of scuba, they are facing a lot of severe health related issues than the gleaning and the snorkeling activities. So these are some common health related hazards recorded in Sri Lanka. Actually, the fish attacks. So jellyfish allergic, sometimes there are some jellyfish emerging in Sri Lanka, and sometimes the diving equipment malfunction. As I told that, as they don't have the pressure gauges, sometimes they may fish, and sometimes the diving equipment, the tanks, it will not release the oxygen under the water. Sometimes there are a lot of deaths recorded, and fatigue, and this some kind of environmental impacts. The thanks to our region, we don't have that much of environmental impacts. That we have some steady climates over the time, and sometimes the ones from sharp objects in the sea. Actually, this is happening in for the gleaning people. And these are the some we recorded from fishermen. Some they attacked by some sea creatures. Actually, I don't know what it is. And these are some kind of jellyfish. They are getting some. That this is not caught. This photo is not taken by me, but I asked from some fishermen. And as these gleaning women, they are doing this gleaning activities with their legs. So there are some sharp objects on the sea floor. So they get a lot of injuries during their period. So this is a video made by me. Then you can see that people are the ladies are working on the sea floors during the low tide period. So they need to spend a lot of time. So to get into the sea region, so they need to walk around 1 to 2 hours by their foot. Then they need to get into the sea with a plastic bag. So they need to collect these individuals. Sometimes they may not collect any individuals. So they need to be there for 5 to 6 hours until the low tide period is over. So sometimes some ladies, they don't get any individuals. So most of the time, so these people are getting a small revenue from the sun. So sometimes even we cannot think, we can live with one day with these earnings, but they have to live in these situations. So as I told in my title, that is diving to dangerous for prosperous life. They are diving to dangerous, but there are no any prosperous life for these divers. So these are the houses, and these are the areas they are working, and these are the processing plants, and actually they are doing it for living. And the special topic I need to talk in the bends, the deadly to scuba, it's decompression sickness. And actually the central nervous system makes them disabled and even dead at least once their lifetime. So more than the 10% of the scuba divers experience at least a small occurrence of these things. So only 10 to 20% of chance to recover if proper treatment is given on time. So they need to saying it should be treated at that place, but we are saying at least within 48 hours they need to be treated. So the cause of this disease is actually when they are descending, the nitrogen and other gases from the air tank increase the pressure, so it gets into their blood circulation. So as they descend depth, so then our body cannot utilize nitrogen. So when they are coming back, actually the nitrogen need to be come out of the blood vessels. So when we are coming very fastly, so we will get sometimes that blood nitrogen release by disrupting blood vessels and nerves by stretching or tearing them. So if divers surface too fast, excess nitrogen will come out rapidly as gas bubbles. So depending on the organs, that they may produce symptoms of decompression sickness. Then the risk is actually related to the depth of dive. So as I told, it's very high, 10 to 30 meters. And also the amount of time under that pressure, and also the rate of ascent. So here actually the major factor is rate of ascent. So if they cannot calculate the time, how long they can under the sea, so they need to come out fast. So there are some symptoms, the symptoms show within 1 to 48 hours, such as fatigue and a burning pain in chest. When they are breathing, it's getting worse. And pain in joints. And long-term effects include the paralysis and death. And actually, we need to treat it by we don't have treatment facilities. Actually, that some treatment methods are invented by fishermen, and what they are doing is they again put the oxygen tanks to those people and bring them into the same sea level. But think that they are using 4 to 5 tanks. If it is the last tank, what can they do? And the proper way of treatment is hyperbaric recompression chambers. But it's only available in the Navy Hospital of Trinco. It's far away from these landing sites. So, as I know that there are some regulations for in US, the depth of diving and diving times that is less restrictive for development of bends. But in Sri Lanka, there are no any proper training or guidelines for this one. Even the authorities don't know what this is about. And then the lack of training and knowledge that most of these fishers got paralyzed or lost their life. And let's move to the conclusion. The health and safety related issues of sea cucumber fishery of Sri Lanka are not properly addressed. And also the major problems related to the health and safety as a lack of knowledge of fishermen as well as the authority bodies. And limited facilities. As I told, we don't have recompression chambers, and also lack of management plans. The management, actually the management decisions are taken at top without considering the bottom, and also poor support from regulatory bodies. And there's a timely need to train the sea cucumber fisher through several programs in order to act properly during the health related issues. Without releasing printed documents, we need to train them on their natural environment. And we need to establish proper facilities for the treatment close to the fishing areas, and also establish management plans for health and safety issues. And it's a timely need to initiate researches in Sri Lanka regarding these things, because before my research there were no any records on these diseases, and no one knows what happened in these fisheries. So, but the major problem facing in Sri Lanka are the lack of funds for the researchers. So this is end of my presentation, and I need to thank these people. Actually, I came from, actually I fly more than 12,000 kilometers from my country to get in here, and I got the sponsorship by this organization. And also I need to thank the divers from Northwestern Province. They helped me, and also my university. And thank you very much.
Questions? Why didn't you face
I'm fascinated by the uptake of scuba diving. I assume that's been increasing over the last few decades.
Yes.
Are there differences in the types of people who do scuba versus skin diving now? Is that associated? You said it was water depth, of course.
Yes.
But are younger people taking up scuba and the older fishers staying with skin diving, or what patterns are there among the uptake in scuba?
Actually, when we are talking about that, initially our country, they started with scuba, snorkeling or skin diving, because it's very close to the it's very nearby. So most of the resources are now depleted in that area. So now people are moving more deeper. So now there is a conversion of skin divers to scuba. Now the majority of divers are scuba divers.
Yeah, just following on, it seems advantageous money-wise to be a scuba diver, based on what you showed. So how much does it cost them to buy the equipment?
Actually, the thing is, most of these people, more than 80% of people don't have their own equipment. They are provided by the processors or the exporters. So there are some hidden charges for this one. There is a huge issue in the price transparency also, because actually the people who catch these fishes, they don't know how much these exporters are earning.
I wanted to ask about this licensing which you said, 10% of the fishers with a CABI license. So what does that entail? Is it only a work license which allows you to catch cucumber, or does it also give you social security health benefits? The second part of this is, do the wooden cleaners also get that license? And the third part of the question is, are they called fishermen in that license? What is the category of these? How did the Sri Lankan government categorize this activity?
Actually, the paddy license is not related to sea cucumber fishery. It's actually related to the scuba diving. Whoever need to do scuba diving, it's not given by a government body, it's given by private bodies. And after training, and they need to demonstrate their abilities, and they will given. And if they have this paddy license, as I know, they can work anywhere. But in the sea cucumber regulations, there are different kind of licensing systems. To catch sea cucumbers, you need a license for the boat, and to process and keep, you need a different license. For exportation, you need a different license. The sad story is that all three licenses are given under the name of the processor.
Any other questions?
I noticed the difference in the salaries of the survivors and the gleaning. It's a difference. Is there any reason, it's just a cultural reason, or is there any policy in place that the women couldn't learn to do scuba diving? Mainly the widows, that their earnings so low.
There are a lot of cultural barriers for them to involve in the scuba diving for the women. And actually these earning levels are differ based on the catches, number of catches they are getting. For the scuba, they can get more catches. For the gleaning, they can get one or two individuals. But when we considering the involvement of women in this fishery, most of the time, that is related to their religious barriers.
Lovely. I'm going to say we're pretty much right on time. It's fantastic. I'm sure that if you've got any other questions, these will be available around and about. So thank you very much for coming to the morning.